Joe Biden is finishing his term as president, and he's wrapping up a very long political career, but it's not ending the way he wanted it to. Biden hoped to defeat Donald Trump and his political movement, and he had ambitious plans for remaking American government and American foreign policy. Although he accomplished some of those things, he also failed to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House. Now, with Trump preparing to become president again, we're taking stock of Biden's legacy over the last 4 years and what he accomplished during his time in office. Biden's first challenge as president was the coronavirus pandemic. He hoped to distribute vaccines and get the country reopened. However, it was much more difficult than expected. Americans were left frustrated by a series of variants of the virus that continued to kill people long after they expected the pandemic to be over. Although Biden's first priority was the pandemic, he also had visions of a presidency much like one of his political heroes, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Biden hung a portrait of the former president in the Oval Office, and he talked about ambitious plans that were along the lines of FDR's New Deal. He wanted to expand social services, he wanted new educational programs, and he also wanted a massive new infrastructure law. Some of these things came to pass. The infrastructure law, for example, has laid the groundwork for new roads and bridges and other projects around the country. There's also billions of dollars for clean energy initiatives and domestic manufacturing of computer chips. Other things never did get done. Those educational and social programs, he was never able to get through Congress. Despite Biden's legislative accomplishments, inflation turned out to be a problem throughout much of his term. It was very frustrating for Americans who, even though they were more likely to have a job, were less likely to be able to afford necessities like food and housing. Another challenge for Biden was managing the influx of migrants at the country's southern border. The spectacle of uncontrolled migration increased anger at his administration and left Americans feeling like the government wasn't really having a good handle on what was happening there. Biden entered office aiming to end the war in Afghanistan. He accomplished this, but it was a much more chaotic process than was expected. Americans died in a suicide bombing during the evacuation, and the Taliban swiftly took control of the country. The rest of Biden's term has been marked by two bloody wars, one with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the other with Israel's military operations in Gaza after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. These have been two intractable challenges that Biden has been involved in, supplying American military equipment to its allies, but has been unable to resolve. Perhaps Biden's most consequential decision was seeking a second term. Even though he was 82 years old and voters doubted he was ready to serve again, he decided to announce a campaign anyways. However, his candidacy fell apart after a damaging debate with Donald Trump. Biden dropped out, endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris, and she ran against Trump for the presidency. She ultimately lost, and Democrats wonder if Biden hamstrung the party by choosing to run again. As president, Biden struggled with low poll numbers, and sometimes his approval rating sunk into the 30%. As he's leaving office, he's still leaving as an unpopular president. And it remains to be seen how history will judge him overall and whether people will look back on him more favorably than they do now.